I still remember the sound of loose change clinking into a chipped glass jar. My father didn't yell. That would have meant he cared enough to raise his voice. No, his version of disappointment was colder like metal left in the snow. "You're almost 24, Nora," he said without looking up from his newspaper, the words cutting like dull blades. "Still here, still playing pretend entrepreneur. Maybe it's time to grow up." I stared at the half-eaten scrambled eggs in front of me. My hands were clenched under the table. My business plan scribbled in margins and marked with highlighter sat, untouched on the kitchen counter. "I'm not playing pretend. I'm building something," I said quietly. He smirked and stood up, reaching into his coat pocket. "Then build it without me." He dropped a small jar of pennies onto the table. It clinked loudly, the sound echoing off the walls. "Here's your seed funding," he said. "See how far that takes you?" I didn't argue. Not anymore. I just picked up my bag, grabbed my notebook, and walked out the door. The Milwaukee winter hit me like a slap sharp, unforgiving. I had no real plan. Only my notebook, my conviction, and that jar of humiliation in my backpack. I called Marcy, my old roommate. She picked up on the first ring. "Tell me you're okay," she said. "Not yet," I whispered, "but I will be." Marcy's apartment wasn't much, just a two-room walk-up over a noisy laundromat, but me, it was a sanctuary. A place with heat, a couch, and someone who didn't look at me like I was a failed experiment. The first night, I lay awake on her couch, watching headlights flicker across the ceiling and listening to the clatter of spin cycles below. My father's words echoed in my head. "See how far that takes you?" I opened my notebook and wrote, "From pennies to power." Ridiculous. Maybe, but it was mine. For the next few weeks, worked double shifts at a crumbling cafe on 5th Street, burnt espresso, brewed regulars. A manager who thought smirking was leadership. I scrubbed floors and restocked napkins like my life depended on it, because it did. At night, I freelanced online copywriting, survey sites, anything that paid more than minimum. On weekends, I haunted the public library, watching business lectures on crusty headphones and reading anything that smelled like strategy. I wasn't looking for magic. I was looking for patterns. One Thursday afternoon, while waiting for the library printer to stop jamming, spotted a flyer taped near the door. "Brick by Brick, Community Development for Women, 3-day intensive with former city architect and investor, Ms. Helena Carter. Free to attend. Application required." The flyer felt like a dare. Ms. Carter didn't look like someone who'd coddle anyone. She wore steel-rimmed glasses, gray slacks, and walked like every minute of her life mattered. The first day of the workshop, she scanned the room like we were blueprints she was considering scrapping. "If you're here to make money fast, leave now," she said flatly. "This isn't TikTok. This is real work." I stayed, and for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. On the second day, after her lecture on adaptive reuse and urban zoning, I waited till everyone else had left and approached her. Double quotes, "Ms. Carter, I don't have a degree or a company, but I have ideas, real ones, and grit. If you ever need someone to sweep your office or organize files, anything, I'll do it. I just want to learn." She looked me up and down. "You walk like someone who's already been told no too many times." I nodded. She handed me a yellow Post-it with her assistant's number. "Be outside my office Monday, 7 a.m. sharp. Don't bring coffee, bring questions." That Monday, I was there at 6:30. She didn't smile when she saw me, just waved me in and handed me a binder thicker than my wrist. "Read this. Come back tomorrow with 3 problems you'd solve in the neighborhood, using under $50,000, no salary, no small talk." Just the fire I'd been waiting to touch. For weeks, I worked under her shadow. She challenged everything I thought I knew. "Budgeting isn't math. It's storytelling," she told me once, tossing out my entire proposal. "Every dollar you spend tells people who you are." I watched her negotiate land leases, review architectural sketches, and pitched to grant boards like a general leading a war. And slowly I began to understand. This wasn't just about real estate. It was about reclaiming space by the end of the third month. She called me into her office. You've got nerve, Nora, and vision. But now I need to see teeth. Are you ready to pitch for real money? I swallowed hard. Yes. Good. There's a forgotten duplex on Riverline. It's ugly, but it's got bones. Find out who owns it. If you can convince me it's worth flipping, I'll fund it. But you manage it. I blinked. You're serious? Ms. Carter just smirked. Welcome to the deep end. That night, I sat on Marcy's fire escape, the city buzzing beneath me, binder open in my lap, and hands shaking with excitement. I pulled out my notebook and scribbled. From pennies to power brick, one ready. I spent the next 4 days tracking down the owner of the Riverline duplex. Turns out it belonged to a retired landlord who was now in deep medical debt. The place had sat empty for nearly 2 years, rotting in silence. Leaky roof, broken windows, rusted plumbing, but the structure, still good, still proud. I put together a pitch with photos, estimates, and a projected after-repair value. When I presented it to Ms. Carter, her only question was, "Why do you want this mess?" I answered without hesitation, because it reminds me of me, abandoned, underestimated, and still standing. She stared at me for a long moment, then handed me a check. The sale closed fast. Ms. Carter's firm bought the title. I managed the budget. It was my show to run. I spent days on site learning to tile patch walls and argue with lazy contractors who hated being corrected by a 24-year-old woman with a clipboard. I worked until my back screamed and my skin reeked of paint, but I loved it. Every bruise, every frozen fingertip, every spreadsheet tit was mine. 2 months later, the duplex was ready. Rented out before the last coat dried, and my cut. $4,800. It wasn't life-changing money, but it felt like victory in paper form. I didn't celebrate with champagne. I bought better work boots and paid off Marcy's utility bills as a silent thank you. Then I went hunting for my next project. That's when I found it by accident, scrolling through Milwaukee's public lien database. I saw a familiar name. Franklin W. Hale. My father. I clicked. Outstanding debt, $39,500. Property, 1430 Linden, View Eva status. Final notice, foreclosure imminent. My throat tightened. That was our house. The one I'd been kicked out of. He hadn't told anyone. Not Marcy, not my aunt, who was trying to keep up the image while the house bled from the inside. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I called Ms. Carter. I want to buy a lien, I told her. She raised an eyebrow on the other end. Who's my father's? A pause. Are you buying it to destroy him? She asked flatly. I shook my head. No. I just want the leverage. I want the power. Another pause. Then send me the property ID. Within 10 days, the paperwork was done. Ms. Carter fronted the settlement under our LLC. I was now the legal lien holder of my father's debt. He didn't know yet, so I had a letter, sent official, emotionless, notarized to the occupant of 1430 Linden View. This is to inform you that your outstanding mortgage has been purchased by a new private holder. Failure to respond within 30 days will result in formal eviction proceedings. He called me that same night. Unknown number. I picked up. Nora. His voice was thinner than I remembered, smaller. I got a letter. With your name on it. Is this a mistake? No, I said. It's not. He fell silent. You bought my debt. I didn't say anything. Are you evicting me? I'm giving you a choice. Stay as a tenant or leave. His voice turned cold. So this is revenge? No, I said softly. This is a receipt. I didn't evict him. I didn't need to. I drafted a lease agreement. $1,200 monthly. Standard terms, no discounts. He paid every month. It's on time. because he had no choice, and I never missed a deposit. Confirmation. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed him to remember who I'd become. The girl he mocked with a jar of pennies. She now owned his roof. That night, I added a line in my notebook. Brick 2 laid the house. That built me, reclaimed. It didn't take long for the gossip to find me. A cousin posted a cryptic Facebook status. Can you believe she made her own dad pay rent? Guess some folks forget their roots. Screenshots circled faster than facts. I ignored it at first. Until someone tagged me in a meme photo of my father mowing the lawn with the caption, "Landlord-daughter energy. Cold as the Wisconsin winter." Stung more than I wanted to admit. Even Ms. Carter noticed. "You're trending," she said dryly during our Tuesday check-in. "I didn't ask for this," I muttered. "No one ever does," she replied. "But the spotlight doesn't care. So if they're telling your story wrong, take the mic." I called Ava Malik, a videographer I'd met at a local workshop. She had an eye for emotion and a knack for truth. Documentary style. She asked. "Not dramatic, just honest," I said. "I want to tell the story before someone else decides what it is." We filmed over 4 days. Footage of me walking past boarded-up duplexes, me reviewing renovation sites, me speaking to teen girls at youth centers. And one single line that Ava used as the hook. He gave me pennies. I gave him dignity, but I kept the power. The video went live on Ava's YouTube channel, from Change Jar to Game Changer. Nora's Rebuild It went viral. Within 48 hours, half the comments hailed me as a badass builder. The other half called me heartless. But none of that mattered when I saw this. As a daughter who's been gaslit by her family forever, thank you. You built what I didn't know was allowed. At Samara from Southside, I cried. The ugly throat burning. Days later, Ms. Carter summoned me. "I just got a call from the city's vacant land board," she said, folding her arms. "They're offering you a shot." "A shot at what?" "An old warehouse on Ashland. Developers want to demolish it, but the city will consider a proposal to restore it. It benefits the community." My heart stopped. The Ashland warehouse was 6,000 square feet of brick, rust, and forgotten stories. I'd passed it dozens of times without imagining I could touch it. Why me? She leaned forward. "Because they saw the video, and now they're curious. Don't waste it." That night, I walked past the warehouse. Its windows were boarded, weeds rising from the sidewalk, graffiti fading under layers of grime. But I saw more. I saw vendors lined up for Saturday markets. I saw classrooms upstairs with laptops and whiteboards. I saw walls covered in murals of girls who looked like me. I called Marcy. "We're building something bigger." She laughed. "Finally, you're dreaming loud again." I named it the Keystone Project, a space for underfunded startups, for single moms launching side hustles, for teenage coders who'd never seen a co-working space in their neighborhood. The first blueprint I drew had a small sunroom labeled Mom's Corner, because even if she wasn't here to see it, she'd planted the seed long ago. 3 months later, the city approved my proposal, and that same night I wrote in my notebook, Brick 3. Public backlash survived. Purpose unlocked. Construction on the Ashland warehouse began in the biting breath of February. I didn't wear heels to ribbon cuttings. I wore steel-toed boots and a fluorescent vest. The city watched. Some were cheering, others were waiting for me to fail. But I didn't care, because something bigger than approval was blooming. Ownership not just of property, but of voice, of space, of self. I named the upstairs wing the Alma Initiative after my mother. Alma, meaning soul, because that's what she gave me, even in her silent soul without apology. I painted her favorite phrase above the main hall. Start with what you have. Meanwhile, my father's rent came in. Every month, on time, never a word. Not even a thank-you, until one Tuesday morning. I found an envelope slipped under the office door. No name, no return address. Just one line, handwritten on a yellow sticky note inside. I was wrong. You made something I never could. I was proud, in my own quiet way. I stared at it for a long time, then filed it behind my deed folder and never spoke of it again. 2 weeks later, Marcy and I held our first youth workshop at the Keystone. 14 teenage girls with notebooks, questions, and walls around there. Hearts. I told them my story. Not the sugar-coated version, the real one. My father kicked me out with a jar of pennies and a head full of doubt. I turned it into 10 properties, a viral brand, and now this. I spread my arms around the space, but the real win is that I never needed to beg anyone for permission again. One girl raised her hand. What if you're scared? I looked her straight in the eye, then build anyway. Because bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's what you create while it's still shaking in your bones. That night, I walked the warehouse alone. Moonlight poured through the rafters. Dust shimmered like stars. I paused in front of my mother's mural brown eyes. Soft smile. The words built from the bottom under her portrait. And I whispered, "We're still rising, Ma." At home, I opened my journal and wrote Brick in her name. It was a rainy Thursday morning, the kind that blurs the city and makes the skyline look like a faded dream. I stood in front of the glass doors of the Keystone, holding a coffee cup in one hand and my mother's necklace in the other. The building pulsed with life. Kids darted down the hallways with folders. Vendors were setting up displays. The walls, once gray and peeling, now glowed with murals. Warm lights and the kind of energy that only comes from collective belief. I didn't speak much that morning. I just watched, listened, felt. That's when I saw her, a girl, 16 maybe, wearing worn-out sneakers and a hoodie 2 sizes too big. Her eyes scanned the entrance like she didn't believe she belonged. But something about her reminded me of me. I walked up slowly. First time here. She nodded. My counselor said I should check it out. I don't know why I'm here, though. I'm not like anything special. I smiled. Neither was I. She blinked. But you own this place. Now I do. But I started with a jar of pennies and a notebook. What do you have? She reached into her pocket and pulled out a sketchbook, faded and filled with magic. I could see it in the lines, the precision, the pain. Ever think about designing spaces? Architecture, community planning? I asked. She laughed. Softly, I've thought about it. But nobody I know does stuff like that. People like me don't build things. I knelt down so we were eye level. People like us. We build everything. We just forget to call it power. She stared at me, unsure whether to laugh or cry. So I pulled out a small object from my coat pocket. A smooth stone with a single word etched on it. Start. This is for you, I said. Your first brick. Build whatever you want from here. She took it with both hands like it was made of gold dot. Later that night, I drove to my old neighborhood. For no reason. Or maybe for every reason. Linden View Avenue hadn't changed much. The street lights still flickered. The sidewalks still cracked. Kids still played with secondhand bikes and big imaginations. I passed by my father's house. It looked different, cared for. He was outside watering the same patch of lawn he once stood on when he threw me out. This time, he waved. No bitterness. Just quiet acknowledgement I didn't stop. Some distances are meant to be observed, not bridged. But for the first time, I didn't carry the weight of that door in my chest. The next morning, I visited the Alma Initiative Wing. No press, no staff. Just me, a fresh pot of coffee, and my journal. I flipped to the last page. From a jar of pennies to pillars of progress. I didn't just flip buildings, I flipped narratives. I didn't just claim land, I claimed identity. I didn't just rewrite my story, made space for others to write theirs. I am not who he said I was. I am not the failure. I am not the burden. I am not the leech. I am the foundation my mother dreamed of. I am the roof over the next girl's head. I am the spark that didn't die. And now, don't need revenge. I don't need forgiveness. I have peace. And that, finally, is enough. Outside, the window, the sun broke through clouds. Small beam of light landed on a group of girls in the courtyard, laughing, running, planning. One of them clutched a sketchbook. And I knew the story wasn't ending. It was just being passed forward.